I have this issue where I find almost no men attractive. Like, it's really, really annoying because I speak to a lot of men, right? I'm very social. I love to talk. I find almost no one attractive. So, like, there's just, like, it just doesn't go anywhere, like, ever. I get asked on dates, I'm like, no, pass. Or, like, even if they are attractive, like, even if, like, yeah, you're a pretty face, I just don't care to speak to them. Whatever, but I can't even have a crush anymore because I'm just like, boring, like, not interested.
Now for our next edition of the Abbey Road Chronicles, spotlighting issues here in the UK. Well, we have Netflix, and it's at it again, attempting to delve into the intricacies of our modern, dysfunctional societies that have been metastasizing in the West over the past several decades. As always, and especially with its protagonists and villains, both historic and modern, Netflix provides demographic and racial twists that are completely not grounded in reality. And given the young, solid 5 lady we just heard from who expressed that she finds nobody attractive enough or up to her standards, well, she's a perfect example of why so many men are checking out and the serious problem between men and women trying to find love. In fact, according to a recent study, almost 50% of men aged between 18 and 25, well, they've never approached a woman in person for a date. Not once. On the other hand, we have the rise of the so-called incel, which is short for involuntary celibate, or men who are unable to make romantic connections with women. And according to academics and the media, well, the incel and his beliefs form a system that is not grounded in reality, but rather a concocted creation of so-called toxic men like Andrew Tate, who radicalize their young followers, and more on that later. So hold on to those 2 bits of information as we proceed to examine the latest dumpster fire of a program from Netflix called Adolescence. It attempts to focus on modern social issues, but like its historical programs, that being Netflix's, it completely delves into an alternate reality to forward a narrative that does not exist. Sorry for the brief interruption, but I'd like to draw your attention to some cool, new, and classic designs over on my shop. It helps the channel very much, and with a wide variety of designs, I'm pretty sure you'll find something that you'll like. Link to find them is in the description, and a very hearty thank you in advance. Media across the Western world have become insatiable in their lust to distort figures within European myths and the historic record by swapping them out with sub-Saharan Africans to the point where these programs no longer resemble even a hint of reality. While race-swapping characters is quite common in Hollywood, no other organization takes on this distortion of reality with more zeal than Netflix.
I am Isis. I am a god.
Imagine her to have curly hair like me and a similar skin color.
I remember my grandmother saying to me, I don't care what they tell you in school, Cleopatra was black.
Of course, this is fantasy and pure fabrication. Cleopatra was, of course, a Greek descendant of General Ptolemy, one of Alexander the Great's successors, who carved out his empire upon Alexander's death and went on to found the Ptolemaic kingdom centered on Egypt. But none of this matters to Netflix. Other shows by Netflix, for example, Bridgerton, set in the Regency era, well, it recast Queen Charlotte with Golda Rosheuvel, a Guyanese actress. The Hollow Crown, well, it placed Sophie Okonedo, a Nigerian actress, as Queen Margaret in 15th century England. Similarly, Troy, Fall of a City, well, the role of Achilles, the legendary Greek hero, well, it went to David Gyasi, a Guyanan actor in the ancient Greek world that was supposedly filled with sub-Saharan Africans. And this is just a small sampling. But what does this have to do with today's video? Now, here we come to Adolescence, Netflix's newest offering, which again illustrates Netflix's creative choices, particularly the depiction of its main character, Jamie Miller, a 13-year-old white lad who murders a classmate with a knife after being bullied as an incel and supposedly being radicalized online by the manosphere and its content, including Andrew Tate's so-called misogynistic influence. The series links his crime to incel ideology, along with the so-called conspiracy theory of the 80-20 rule, also mentioned in the program, and uses Tate as a symbol of supposed toxic alpha male rhetoric that Jamie consumes. It frames his violence as a result of digital indoctrination, misogyny, and inceldom. However, the reality of these kinds of crimes, in the UK at least, paints a very different narrative than the one examined in the series, as all the data points to black males dominating such incidents. Yet the series casts a white protagonist for its fictional story about youth crime, despite UK statistics showing black individuals disproportionately committing such offenses. For example, 69% of knife offenders in London are BAME, or that is Black, Asian, or minority ethnic, and that is per 2021 data. For more context, the same report notes that this was a rise from 44% in 2008, and with black individuals forming the lion's share of that BAME category. It should be noted that the black population of London in 2021 was about 13% of the total population. As well, and similarly, the same pattern exists in the United States, where FBI stats for 2022 peg black Americans, who are as well about 13% of the general population, at 55% of murder offenders. Yet frank and open public discussion on these statistics are exceedingly rare. Of course, when reality does not comport with narratives, Netflix always takes the route that affirms the latter. The disparity in Netflix catalog is undeniable. Netflix's decision to invert reality in Adolescence is meant to deflect from very uncomfortable truths within modern multicultural Britain. While the series was inspired by real UK cases, such as that in Southport, and bears an eerie resemblance to the case of teen Hassan Sentamu, as many have pointed out online, bringing such truths could be considered too risky in today's climate of reality aversion and instant outrage over pointing out elephants in the room. But critics should understand that since the 2010s, BLM and similar movements have made discussing black community issues a very risky proposition, with accusations of racism and swift backlashes that can end careers, and thus it all but silences debate. Media, academics, and politicians very much avoid terms like black crime and instead focus on things like inequality, rather than ever investigating the possibility of cultural factors. More importantly, there are no easy solutions. Issues like fatherlessness, for example, which runs at about 60% of the Black Caribbean UK kids that live within single-parent homes, or the street gang violence and criminality, well, they all lack consensus fixes, so silence prevails over uncomfortable debates. But most importantly, the United Kingdom, like all other Western nations, are again reality-adverse societies. But to be fair, the creators, Stephen Graham and Jack Thorne, they haven't explicitly said they were covering up racial realities. Instead, they frame the show as a broader exploration of societal issues, so-called online radicalization, and the belief in so-called toxic masculinity and the manosphere. And as far as I can tell, making Jamie white likely serves to universalize the narratives, focusing on a, quote, typical working class family, closed quote, in order to shift attention to incel ideology and digital influence rather than mindless street violence based on things like turf and perceived disrespect. But as this series focuses on the incel ideology, it then thus looks to sidestep the reality of gang violence tied to black youth, just as the wider media does. Knife crime's racial breakdown isn't disputed, but by choosing this selective lens, whether that's cowardice or creativity depends on your view. It avoids the broader picture, though. It really should be stressed, however, that modern drama often prioritizes relatable or unexpected angles, and in this instance, a white kid from a normal family, over statistical mirrors. And the UK is a nation terrified, I should say, to look into the mirror and see what its society has become. So where does this leave us? Is Adolescence a creative detour or a calculated retreat? Netflix's race swapping, possibly a shield against criticism, possibly a play for profits? Well, obviously it divides viewers sharply. Is it progressive storytelling or a refusal to confront reality? Share your thoughts in the comments section below, and if you value these dissections of things like Adolescence, please check to see that you're still subscribed and tap the bell notification. It'd be very much appreciated. And until next time, keep questioning.